When I'm letting my trades go, it's pretty hard to know when enough is enough. When do I kind of cut my winners? When do I cut my losers? How do I maximize my reward opportunity? And that's what we're looking at here on the day. As we look at this chart on NVIDIA, you can see continuous reclaims of this key level when it's coming to the indicators on the chart. And what's going to really surprise you is this indicator is something that you should be using on every single time frame because it's a constant and it's used by big money every single day. And the indicator is the VWAP. Now I'm going to go over it as simply and as quickly as possible and not give you too much or too little. Let's get to it. Now look, before we go crazy, let's just break down why we use the VWAP and where we go with it. Volume is king. It's our number one thing we use here on the channel. Volume, supply and demand, and then going into some of these indicators. The only indicators we really use on the chart is the 9 EMA VWAP. And yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the chart. We have some higher time frame overall indicators, but this is definitely the one you're going to use at all times, the 9 EMA and the VWAP. The volume weighted average price, VWAP, is a trading benchmark used by traders that gives an average price a security has been trading at throughout the day based on what? Both volume and price. Our favorite things, price action and volume. They're constants. This is not a lagging indicator. This is exactly what's happening and where you're at right now. Why not just use a moving average? Why not just use the 50 moving average or just the 9 EMA? Well, VWAP is unique in itself. It's not calculating just a candle. It's calculating the price and the volume. And there's no other indicators that really do what the VWAP does. And that's the beautiful thing about it. It's calculating actual trading activity. Moving averages do not account for volume, just the price, and giving you a better visual of just the previous candle. So if I'm looking at the 50 EMA, it's just looking at the last 50 candles on that time frame. That's all that really matters. Volume is the most important trading tool. That's the foundation of what we do here. If we get increasing volume, then we know that this is a true move. If we get decreasing volume, it calls for concern. It causes us to step back and say, let's get a little bit more information, right? It tells us the complete story within trading. Now I'm going to go over a few ways that we can use the VWAP and that I use the VWAP every single day. So we're going to look at NVIDIA, and I want to look at a chart that's trending in one direction. So NVIDIA is like one that comes to mind because they've been clearly moving to the upside over the past week. We'll go over Tesla and maybe another one here, but let's cover what's happening here. Now, VWAP is the blue line, and people always say, well, what time frame do you use VWAP on? I'm like, have you never used it? VWAP is a constant. It's never really going to change. If I go from the 5-minute to the 30-minute, it may change by a few decimal points, but it's essentially always the same. Now, when we jump in here, what's happening? So we can see on NVIDIA, let's talk about kind of what happened with this action. We were making a little bit of higher highs here, coming in higher high, higher lows, and then we kind of had a little steep drop. Now this is where things got interesting and what I aim to look for here. So when I'm trading and I'm trying to identify a trend or a reversal in that trend, I'm always watching the 9 EMA and VWAP. Now VWAP is a little bit more important because everyone uses it, and the best way to really grasp what the VWAP does, or really what's happening there at that level and why it gets touched so many times throughout the day, is because that's generally where big money is buying in, is at or near the VWAP. That's why you notice price spikes. That's why you notice heavy reactions from the VWAP. This is not just, little Timmy in his garage buying stocks. No, it's generally big money, right? And I'm not talking about small caps. I'm usually talking about big caps on this channel as well. So once we start to see this kind of change, now you can see we mounted here, but we pushed right back down. But this is where things started to get interesting. So we can see here on the 13th, we mounted once, we mounted twice, and at the end of the day, we hit it again. This is a pretty good close. This is pretty decent, right? And so we start to push back up. And then you start to see, we start to make these higher lows across the board on the VWAP. So this tells me once we start to mount it again, it's probably go time. It's probably worth the long opportunity based on how we're acting here. And we're also looking at a 15-minute chart, not just a 5-minute. So these candle closes are going to be more significant. So we can also see as we zoom in here, you get the push up, you flag, you hold above, continue to go again, and you hold it all the way until we go from 240 all the way up for about $24 to $25. Now, if this isn't an indicator that I think shows immediate impact or trading opportunity, then I don't really know what would be. So when you're coming back into this, you can also see you start to get a close below it here at the end of the day, and this is more towards a reversal, which we'll talk about here in a second. But before we go into that reversal subject, I want to also say This is how you know when stocks are inherently strong, when they're holding that VWAP. When you can continuously hold the trend above the VWAP, that's when you know you're maintaining strength. That's when you know things are going very good. This is an inherently strong stock. You always hear about me talking about weak stocks versus strong stocks. When I'm trying to go short on the market, I'm looking at market structure. That's the next video, just so you guys know. When you're looking at market structure and you have a clear defined area, like right now, I'm net bearish on the market right now. I'm not looking to go long on one of the strongest names out there like NVIDIA. I'd be looking at a weaker name such as Tesla. So these are things you have to be looking at. So when we go to Tesla, what's happening here? Now, obviously Tesla on the past 2 days, you've been getting a little bit more chop. You're trying to push up, but you can see VWAP's definitely been a struggle. And if we go back to the move down when we made, a lot of our money, you can see continuous holds and push downs on the VWAP over and over. You get a push up with the market, but then you get right back below VWAP. Maintaining most of these have been rejections of VWAP, not mounts of the VWAP. You want to start looking at how you are reacting to it. And one of the better trades that you could have got into was right about here on March 8th to when you just cannot hold above that VWAP all day long. Just continuous rejections, and you end up dropping, if you would have got in right here at this last rejection at around 182.5 all the way down, honestly, to even lower levels of 164, another 20-point move down. So just giving you those opportunities and those setups. That's why I use this in combination of the 9 EMA with the VWAP. So sometimes when you get a push above the VWAP, you still have that 9 EMA to be watching so you don't get spooked out of it too quick. But again, for small scalps, the VWAP is going to be your best friend. Now let's go into a little bit about reversals going into NVIDIA. Now, am I saying that NVIDIA has to reverse on Monday or wherever it may be? I'm not saying that whatsoever. But what I love to do is I love to go into some of these key levels like the daily time frame. And let's just look where we're at. So if we look here on NVIDIA, clear target had to have been the gap fill going all the way back here. We can mark that real quick. And then we're just going to go right back into our chart of where we're at here on NVIDIA. And is it eye-opening? Is it jarring? Is it random? Whatever you want to say. But as we look at the chart, it becomes really clear. You get above it and then you just reject that VWAP continually here, right? Really simple to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 rejections of that VWAP and then pushing back down. These are types of reversals you're looking to see. So you want to line these levels up with what you're already doing to your chart. Every time I'm putting an indicator on my chart, it's not because I'm using the VWAP to only trade on. It's because I'm using the VWAP to combine with my trading style, supply and demand, key levels, right? That's what we want to focus on here. So when I line up the VWAP with the key level and I see the rejections happening here, this is setting up for a short opportunity. Just saying. Now, again, is it possible you push back above 100%? Fundamentals will always dominate technicals, in my opinion, but you need to be prepared for some of these setups because, again, like I said, if we didn't have the VWAP here, it would just kind of look like we're just kind of chopping around a key level. But when I throw the VWAP back on the chart, I think it becomes more apparent that there's some inherent weakness here on the chart, specifically at that VWAP and at this key level. It changes the entire way of which you're looking at this. Going back to Tesla, let's look at what happened near the top, near 210, 220. If you come back over here, we start to see that inherent weakness, right? So you can actually see if we go to Tesla on about the 2-hour time frame, and just I know this is a little bit higher time frame, we don't want to focus too much on this, but you can actually see we started to form a sort of head and shoulders here and then started pushing back down. So once you start to forming that head and shoulders here, I started to look for rejections and started to really look at VWAP for potential entries. And that's where things started to heat up. So you start to see that you try to push above VWAP every few days. Like you try to push up here and you push back down, you reject, push down further, continual VWAP projections. Now you start to try to mount it here. You try to get above it, but if we put that 9 EMA on, you can also see you're trying to mount that as well, but you start pushing right back down. That's why I like to see continual holds. I like to see time above. I want to see time above these levels, not just one amount, but want to see the trend overall forming. And it just keeps going into bear flags after bear flag after bear flag back toward the downside, which ultimately gives you that entry around 196 over and over and over. And that's where the trend started to flip and reverse. It's not always going to be just a perfect touch. So let's say hypothetically, this is our VWAP right here. Price isn't going to always just come right down, reject perfectly, and just shoot down. You have to watch to how you react to this level. If we start to push above and just slowly get rejected here over and over, maybe you're pushing above that VWAP, but initially you're still seeing the resistance there, and that ultimately sellers are winning that battle. I told you I'd get you out of here quick. It's only been 10 minutes. Like, subscribe, do what you got to do. More videos are coming, and make sure you check out our channel every day, Monday through Friday, for market updates, trades we're loving, and every setup in the market, unbiased and transparent as possible. Have a good one, traders.